Super. So
Hi.
once more request to everyone. Yeah, yes, Sonam, you have to do your formality or whatever. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So I would like to warmly welcome Mr. Pradeep, the Managing Director and Chief Storyteller at Presentim and Vice President of TiE Coimbatore for today's session on how to do it. So this event will take place on 27 September at Hotel Jaipur Marriott from 12 to 6 p.m. Mr. Pradeep will be sharing his insights for the do's and don'ts for speed dating and how to deliver an impactful elevator pitch. So, sir, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sonam. So I think we have 1 hour. We are at 8:08 and we will finish at 9:08. And Nitish, if you can just put me and the slides on Spotlight, please. Nitish? Yeah, wonderful. So all of you, if you can change your view to speaker view, you will see that both the slides and I are on equal sizes and side by side. Just give me a thumbs up if you are able to see that view so that the experience is much better. जो लोग फोन से ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं लाइक जितेश आप फोन को आड़ा कर दीजिएगा तो आई थिंक इट विल बी अ बेटर व्यू जितेश यश दिवेश it will be a better view if you do it this way. So you'll be able to see me and my screen side by side. That's the ideal optimum view. Wonderful. My name is Pradeep Yuvaraj and TiE Rajasthan has given me the responsibility to work with all of you over the next 1 hour on how you can perform better in your speed dating. I'm assuming that all of you are startups. That's the broad assumption that I have. And I will try to do justice to this 1 hour that we have. I named the theme of the talk Aha Se Aha Tak, like the move ad, right? Because when you go into a speed dating kind of a context, the investors or the audience has already seen so many pitches. तो उन लोगों का ऑलरेडी सर दुखना चालू हो जाता है क्योंकि हर बंदा अगला बंदा स्टार्टअप है पिच दे रहा है स्टार्टअप है पिच दे रहा है स्टार्टअप है पिच दे रहा है तो आफ्टर द थर्ड और द फोर्थ pitch you literally are in a kind of a mood. How do you as an entrepreneur, how do you as a presenter, how do you as a storyteller move them from to aha and call you for the next meeting? All said and done, my dear brothers and sisters, the purpose of you doing this speed dating is not for you to get investment. नहीं मिलता है वो फिश टैंक के सीरियल में नहीं होता है जैसा जिंदगी में नहीं होता है कि आपने पिच किया और लोग इमीडिएटली इन्वेस्टमेंट देने लगते हैं. आपको क्या चाहिए कि they need to remember you and they need to call you for the next meeting. That's all. Whether you win the competition at TiE Rajasthan, Alana Phalana, all that is perfectly fine. And I'm assuming that everyone here on the call understands Hindi. Anyone who doesn't understand Hindi? I am a Madrasi, so I have to ask this question. Most Madrasis don't understand, but I'm assuming from all the names, no one looks like a Madrasi here. So I will on and off be going into a little bit of Hindi. I think predominantly in Hindi, and so sometimes it's easier to crack jokes in Hindi. So that's what I will try to do. Let's get into the session today. May I request Nidhi to probably read out whatever she's reading on the screen. Nidhi, can you read a little aloud what you see on the screen?
Yeah, this is not a work of fiction. Names, characters, business events, and incidents are the products of the presenters. Struggle, stupidities, brilliance, luck. Any resemblance to actual person, living or dead, or actual event is not purely coincidental. Nice.
Wonderful. And to summarize all that, whatever I am going to tell today is 100% true, and whatever I'm going to tell today is 100% false as well, right? So just to set the context, what we're going to do today is we're going to do three things. One, we will understand how we are able to grab attention in that short span of time that you're going to have as part of the speed dating. Number two, we will try to understand how we can hold focus so that for those 3 or 4 or 5 minutes that you're with them, they're attentive to you. And finally, like I said, what is the action we want from them? The action we want from them is for them to remember you and then call you back for the next meeting. Who am I to teach you all this stuff? My name is Pradeep Yuvaraj. I am the principal storyteller at a company called Presentim. We are one of India's very few presentation strategy and business storytelling companies. I come from a background of having worked for 3 of the largest companies in the world, ExxonMobil, Shell, and Total, before I turned entrepreneur. I failed in my first 3 ventures. I lost close to 1 crore and 20 lakhs at the age of 29, trying to run different businesses. Then my next 3 businesses were successes. I got acqui-hired by a large company from Bangalore, which was my last startup before I started this company called Presentim. Over the last 14 and a half years, I have worked with around 642 different startups and help them raise money through storytelling through their pitch deck. So what I'm going to do today is summarize some of those learnings, summarize some of the learnings I have had as a storyteller to enable each of you to stand on my shoulders and leap into the next phase of your life or a success, right? So with that, let's get started. जैसे हिंदी में बोलते हैं पहले शुरुआत से शुरू करते हैं. So you're all going to go into a hall. I think Sonam said Marriott, right? And Varun, आपका कैमरा मुड़ गया है तो आपका टेबल दिख रहा है, आप नहीं दिख रहे हो. Varun Khandelwal, right? So you're going to go into a hall at Marriott, and there are three villains who are going to be there in the room for you, right? तीन तिगाड़े जो काम बिगाड़ेंगे आपके लिए, वो तीन हैं. वो तीन क्या हैं? Number one, it's going to be a flea market. As you see a photograph, and I put a photograph from the last year's speed dating, that it is like a mela. ठीक है, सब वहाँ स्टार्टअप्स हैं, सब इन्वेस्टर्स हैं और सब लोग बकर 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 कर रहे हैं. So it's literally going to be noisy, it's literally going to be distracting, and that's the environment you're going to be in. Number two, you have a race against time. From what I understand from Sonam, I think you will have a total of 5 minutes. Sonam, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. So you'll have a total of 5 minutes in which you have to tell your story, you have to convince them, you have to make them understand everything, and then you have to also let them ask you questions so that they are clear in what you're saying. So it's literally going to be a time race against time. And like I showed you again from a picture from last time, you can see that there's a timer running. And when there's a timer running behind you, literally your focus is not on the audience, your focus is always on the timer. So how do you overcome that is what we're going to do. And the तीसरा तिगाड़ा क्या है कि वो लोग तीसरे या चौथे पिच के बाद थकने वाले हैं. They are human beings, right? It is not possible for a human being to be attentive for after more than 17 minutes. That's why TED Talks are 17 minutes long, right? So they are not going to be attentive. They are literally going to be in a mode कि यार ये कब खत्म होगा, 6 बजे कब आएगा और मैं घर कब जाऊंगा, right? It has nothing to do with you as a startup or anyone else. It's just normal human psyche. So how do you, in that 5 minutes, overcome all these three challenges and move forward? And what's even worse, can anyone take a guess what these numbers are? Ronak, can you tell me what do you think these numbers are? 240 and 6. You are on mute, Ronak.
Out of every 240 people, only 6 get selected.
No. So there are only 4 hours literally for the speed dating. So which is 240 minutes. There are around 28 investors in the panel, which means practically they only have 6 minutes, which also includes the time you have to stand up and move to the next desk and all that stuff. So that's the race, my dear friends, you're going to be running against. You only have 6 minutes, of which I think one minute will go off. So you really have 5 minutes to make it count. And you have to do this repeatedly for 26 times in a span of 4 hours. So there are certain things that we need to do. Our normal tarike, taur tarike nahi chalenge. We will have to do something unique to really overcome all these things. So what are those things that we will do? We will show them certain things so that they're able to understand what you're saying. We will tell them certain things so that they're able to grasp what you're saying. And we will do certain things so that the impact is as high as possible. I have divided my talk into 3 parts: the show part, the tell part, and the do part. Let's start off with the tell part, right? आप कमरे के अंदर जाते हो, number 1 क्या होता है? एक बंदा बैठा है ऐसे और बोल रहा है अरे ले एक और आ गया, right? Because he's gone through 4 or 5 pitches now, right? That's like the literal expression that this person has. And I have taken photographs from last year's speed dating. Although the reactions may not necessarily be what's there on the screen, but for all practical purposes, I think that's the reaction that's going to be there for you within the first half an hour. Yeah, ek aur aa gaya, chalo, utke khada ho gaya. So what do you as a presenter need there? You want them to take notice. You want them to give their 100%. You are not just another startup in his mind. You want them to really look at you and listen to you speaking. So how do you make people notice you in a clustered kind of a manner? You do something unexpected. When they are going to be repeatedly hearing the same thing, good morning, my name is Varun Ahuja, I am running this company. Good morning, my name is Yash Kalra, I am running this business, blah, 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 blah. Then they're going to be really pissed off or, tired, right? So can you break the pattern and do something unexpected? For example, when Nidhi read out my disclaimer today, there was like a sudden reaction from everyone, like, "Arey, chal kya raha hai?" Right? Because it was not something you expected. You expected me to go into the session and tell you what we're going to do and alana falana and blah, 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 blah. So when you do the unexpected, you grab people's attention. The easiest way to grab attention is to break a pattern. So now go ahead and think, what can you do to break that pattern? Can you talk something very different to what everyone else is talking? Can you do something different so that what everyone else is doing? Okay, everyone, I'll just give some random thoughts that come to my mind as I speak to you, and maybe you can use some of them when you are working on them. For example, अगर सब लोग लैपटॉप लेके आ रहे हैं और मैं सिर्फ ऐसे 10-15 कार्डबोर्ड छोटे छोटे कार्ड्स लेके आऊं और उनको आगे बिछा दूं और बोलूं कि सर मेरे ये स्लाइड्स है, चलो देखते हैं, right? What will happen? Immediately there will be some attention. Whether the attention is going to stay or no, I don't know. But at least you have now grabbed their attention. So can we do something different is number one that we need to do. For example, in this slide, one of my clients wanted to talk to her investors about breast cancer. Now, without putting the image of what breast cancer does to a woman, really, it's very, very difficult for them to understand. So she put this up. Her name is Kimba Williams. She's a client from Tampa. And she wanted those old men who were sitting there in the room to really, squirm in their chairs. And this, ये जैसे बोलते हैं ये इमेज जो है आदमी का दिल पिघलाने वाला इमेज, अरे like, अरे माँ कसम, is this what happens when a woman has breast cancer and she survives it, right? So that's the kind of breaking the pattern that you want. So go ahead, and rather than having the logo of the company in the first slide, one title document saying this is what we are doing and blah 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 blah, right? आप क्या अलग कर सकते हो वो मुझे नहीं मालूम. You will have to think for yourself. But number one, you have to grab attention by doing something unexpected. The number two reaction that you're going to face there is, यार ये बहुत confusing है. ये पता नहीं यार बंदा बोल क्या रहा है, right? Because you are so close to your product, you know the technology, you know the business, but the poor guy sitting in front of you might be someone who's made his money selling milk. He has no clue when you're saying we are a multi-stack, all-stack technology company, right? What are you telling me, right? So the second reaction that predominantly people are going to have there, because there are 40 different startups, I'm sure each of you is running a very, very different business. It's going to be difficult for them to understand what you're doing. So what do you really want? You want them to understand what you're doing. How do you make people understand? How do you make a diverse audience of 28 different people understand the same thing? Right? एक आदमी हो, दो आदमी हो, ठीक है यार, तो आप उसको थोड़ा define कर सकते हो. The easiest way to make people understand is to take the complexity out of the whole thing and make it as simple as possible. No jargon, no technological words. If there is a simple word in English that can tell, for example, the word cadence, right? What is cadence? What are the repeated days in which we are going to have the meeting is what is cadence, right? So don't show off your English skills. Don't show off your verbiage skills. Make it as simple as possible. Make it as relatable as possible. I'm sure many of you who are probably 20, 30 plus will remember what Steve Jobs did when he launched the iPod. Instead of talking about the gigabytes that he had, instead of talking about the aluminum body that he had, he said, ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you a device that will let you carry 1,000 songs in the coin pocket of your jeans. Not even another any pocket, the coin pocket, the chintu sa pocket rata na apna jeans mein, that pocket. What did Steve Jobs do? He really made it simple for people to understand what this product was doing, right? No one cares a damn what your technological knowledge is. No one cares a damn that you have a PhD in XYZ. What they really care is, yaar, mere ko samjhao, yaar, ye karta kya hai, right? So that's the second thing that you need to do. What's the third challenge that you're going to have? The third challenge that you're going to have is people are not going to believe many of the statements you're going to make, right? Because, there is no credibility. You are not Elon Musk. You are not Mark Zuckerberg. You are not Narayana Murthy. How do I believe that Divesh is telling me the truth, right? So what do you want when people have this reaction on their face? What do you want? And of course, there are certain other people also who will have this other reaction. कि यार ये तो झूठ बोल रहा है. ये बोल रहा है कि यार इंडिया में मतलब 100 करोड़ मार्केट साइज है. ये तो झूठ बोल रहा है. यार कहाँ से आया तुम्हारे पास नंबर? किसने बनाया तुमको ये नंबर? Right? So there is always these blockades that you are going to have in with respect to your investors or the audience. So what do you really want them? You want them to agree with what you're saying. How will people agree when with what you're saying. For example, today, if I had just started off saying that my name is Pradeep Yuvaraj, I am the managing director of Presentum, probably you may not agree with all the things that I say. But when I told you that I failed in my first 3 startups, I have worked with 642 plus startups, there's a small credibility that is built in. And credibility is always built by vulnerability as well and by success as well. If you have failed, it is good. Sir, I am an entrepreneur who failed once and now I have started a new business. They will actually believe you more than an entrepreneur who says, ki maine sab kuch ukhad liya. Right? So you need to get people to agree. The best way to get people to agree is to build in credibility. How do you build in credibility? By talking about the different customers that you already have onboarded, by talking about the different users who are already working with you, talking about the beta tests that you have already done, or talk about a specific research report that has spoken about what business you are doing. Don't say, I found it on Google. I found it on XYZ report. Be very specific. The Deloitte report that talks about retailing has said that Indian retailing will grow by around 32%. I validated this by going to 100 retailers in Jaipur, and this is what they said. Now I will believe you. Because otherwise, there is no way that I can believe you. I'm sure many of us would have heard or got this SMS or WhatsApp message कि आज जयपुर एयरपोर्ट के पास 12 बजे से 12:30 मत जाइए क्योंकि नासा ने बताया है कि अल्ट्रावायलेट रेज आने वाला है. Why do we believe it? We believe it because of the word NASA, because there's a credibility associated with that word. So can you bring in credibility? If Ronak says that Shop IQ is a great product, I will not believe. But if Ronak says that, sir, जयपुर रग्स का जो रिटेलर है उसने ये बोला है कि हमारा प्रोडक्ट उसके लिए बहुत अच्छा है, I will still believe him because I don't know that person. Ronak also doesn't know the person literally, or rather Ronak is not that person. We always tend to believe in the third person always rather than the first person. So rather than apni khud ki PP bajana, use your customers to do the PP bajana, and that's where you build in credibility, right? Because if they don't believe you, then your whole pitch is going to go for a toss. There's no point in doing the whole pitch, right? Number 4, the challenge that you're going to have when you are with this audience is I don't care. ठीक है यार, ये business है, चलता है, ठीक है, right? Of course, my disclaimer to those people who were on the photographs, I'm sure that was not the real reaction they had, but somehow we found that this is normal, right? Because you don't care about it. अरे ये ठीक है, लड़कियों को periods के time में तकलीफ होता है, मैं क्या करूँ, right? Because that's an attitude. There's a detachment for people because they are not connected to the problem. So how do you make people care about what you're trying to solve? You make them care by using in the power of emotions. Emotions are the best way to make people care, because if people don't care, then they will not act. How do you bring in emotions into your conversation? I'll give you one example. Do you know that 70,080 Indian women die every year of cervical cancer? The only cancer that has a vaccine. 70,080 औरतें इंडिया में हर साल मरते हैं सर्वाइकल कैंसर के कारण. ये एक ऐसा कैंसर है जिसका एक वैक्सीन भी है, and it's also a cancer that's the most easily detectable. Do we all feel bad hearing this number? Because you know what's the cost of the vaccine? It's only $1,200. आप स्टारबक्स में एक कॉफी जितना खरीदते हो उतने पैसे में एक औरत की जान बचा सकते हैं, लेकिन फिर भी इंडिया में 70,000 औरतें मरती हैं. Did any of you feel so bad that you want to stop your current business and go and do something to do with biotech? Maybe, maybe not, right? What if I tell you that every 8 minutes, one Indian woman dies of cervical cancer, the only cancer that has a vaccine? Now, did you feel a little more bad than the previous statement? Right? Rajesh, correct? But Rajesh, I am sure you're good in mathematics. 60 divided by 8 multiplied by 24 hours in a day multiplied by 365 days in a year is equal to 70,080. Both these slides are the same. So why is it that Sahil has that expression on the second slide? Why is there a different reaction? Because I triggered your emotions when I said one Indian woman. The moment मैंने one Indian woman बोला, आपके दिमाग में क्या हुआ? कोई एक औरत जिसको आप पहचानते हो. It could be your mother, sister, neighbor, girlfriend, whoever. You thought of her and said, अरे उसको ये हो गया तो क्या कर सकते हैं? What's your relationship with that person? It's an emotional relationship. So immediately आपका खून खौल उठा. जबकि मैंने जब 70,080 बोला, it's a big number. You have no face to it. You don't know who they are. It could be any aurat, any woman. So there's no context, there's no emotion. Mother Teresa very famously said, show me the mask and I shall do nothing, but show me the one and I will act. What did she really mean? कि आप जब 1000 बच्चों के लिए पैसे मांगोगे कोई नहीं देगा. कि अरे कोलकाता में 1000 बच्चे भूख के मारे मर रहे हैं, कोई नहीं देगा. आप ये बोलो कि ये देखो प्रदीप बेचारा एक हफ्ते में इसने सिर्फ एक स्लाइस ब्रेड खाया है, इसकी जिंदगी ऐसा है, आप कुछ कर सकते हो क्या? Trust me, 90% of us will at least give some money because now you have an emotional connect to the problem that you're solving. Otherwise, 100 children, 1000 children, there's no emotional connect, right? And this is what all these NGOs use very powerfully. They will always talk about one individual because they want you to be emotionally connected to that one individual. And that is the power of emotion. So how do you make your investors care about what you're talking? By bringing in some emotional connect with them. Do a LinkedIn research. Find who are those 28 judges who are going to be there. See from their LinkedIn if you can find some specific examples which might be helpful for them. When I say emotion, it's not emotional. ठीक है, वो बहुत अलग चीजें हैं. इमोशनल अलग है और इमोशन अलग है. तो वो सास बहू की सीरियल में रोना धोना वाला टाइप इमोशन नहीं है. If I'm a golfer, what is the emotion? You show me something about golf, immediately my emotions is I go back to a golf course and I'm feeling much better and I'm feeling much more relaxed. That's an emotion, right? So it could be anything. What can trigger something in the heart of the person sitting in front of you is what you need to be looking at. So for that, you will need to do research. I don't know whether Sonam, you will be sharing the names of the judges or whatever the investors beforehand. But in case you guys are able to do that research, go ahead and do that research. But otherwise, उनका शक्ल देखो, उनका बैकग्राउंड देखो. अगर आगे लेडी बैठी है तो उनको जो है आप चाहिए. अगर आगे मर्द है तो उनको जो एग्जांपल आप दोगे वो अलग होना चाहिए, right? Because the contexts are going to be very, very different. But the key is they will only care when there is an emotional connect to what you are talking about, right? Number 5 problem that you're going to have कि यार इतना सारा ज्ञान दे रहा है यार, मेरे को तो आधा चीज भूल ही गया मैं जब से बात किया है. I don't know whether you have heard of a scientist called Hermann Ebbinghaus. Hermann Ebbinghaus in the year 1830, he did a research कि लोग याद कैसे रखते हैं. And his research said that people forget 80% of what they heard within the first 6 hours, which means by the time the speed dating starts and by the time it ends, the first guy to whom you presented would have forgotten 80% of what you have said. So you cannot afford to do that because you want them to remember. My video is off? Oh shit, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you for pointing that out. When did it get off? Okay, I don't know why, when did it get off? Anyway, cool. Okay, so you are, if you give too much gyan, too much information, too much jargon, then the investors are going to be overwhelmed. The metaphor I always like to use कि आपको पानी प्यास लगी है और आप अगर जाके वो जो fire hydrant रहता है ना, the fire hydrant that you see on the roadsides or wherever, you open it up and you start drinking. How much can you drink really? Not much, right? पानी तो इतना आ रहा है लेकिन पी आप इतनी रहो. So don't try to give too much information. Information is inversely proportional to attention. जितना ज्यादा आप इंफॉर्मेशन दोगे उतना कम आपको अटेंशन मिलेगा. तो अगर आपके पास 100 राम कहानियां बताना है, आप सिर्फ 2 बताओ. उनके पास बाकी 98 उनके दिमाग में नहीं बैठने वाला है. So reduce the amount of information. So how do you make people remember what you said? Because you're going to forget. You make people remember by making it concrete. When you speak in abstractness, people don't remember. When you speak in concreteness, they will remember. What do I mean by abstract and what do I mean by concrete? Let's understand that. For example, let me ask Anand, Warsaw. Oh, Anand, you're in Warsaw, really? Okay, Anand.
Yep, Vietnam and Warsaw.
Oh, wonderful, Anand. Anand, what if I tell you that every box of popcorn that you consume during your cinema theater in the break has 33.782 milligrams of trans fat. Trans fat is very, very, very bad for your liver. You will get a fatty liver. What will happen, Anand, when you go to buy popcorn next time?
I won't remember that.
you will actually still buy up. You may not think of it twice. Okay, right? Because 33.786 milligrams of trans fat, iske baap ka kya jata hai, right? What if I tell you, Anand, that the amount of bad oil in one box of popcorn is equal to the amount of bad oil in 2 cigarettes, 6 samosas, 1 kg of deep fried, double fried chili chicken, and half a kg of desi ghee sweets. इसमें जितना खराब तेल है, बैड ऑयल है, उतना एक बॉक्स ऑफ. अब बताओ क्या होगा? I couldn't hear you.
The mind, I can relate that.
Yeah. So now let me ask Shakshi. Shakshi, आप क्या करोगे? आप म्यूट पे हो. Yes, Sahil, you want to speak? Go ahead, Sahil. बोलिए.
Yeah, I'm already worried. Just want to ask
Already
you, the
worried.
information जो आप दे रहे सही है.
Right. So what did I do? Why is it that in the second instance you are worried, first instance you are not worried? Because 33.786 milligrams of trans fat is an abstract concept. वो दिखता नहीं है. आंख बंद किया कुछ दिखता है क्या? नहीं दिखता है. लेकिन समोसा, सिगरेट, जलेबी, देसी घी स्वीट्स दिखता है. So anything that I can see is concrete. Anything that I cannot see is abstract. Your technological terms, your jargon, your gigabytes, they are all things people don't see. 1,000 songs in one pocket, people can see, right? So the brain has evolved as a muscle that only understands concreteness. Dog. Did any of you in your mind right now get the alphabets D-O-G? Right? नहीं. कोई कुत्ता जो आप पहचानते हो आपके घर के बाजू वाला दिखता है. क्यों? क्योंकि ये दिमाग को abstractness नहीं समझ में आता है. Alphabets are abstract. If any of you are from an educational background, you will understand that most of the Montessori methods and the Waldorf methods, they do not introduce alphabets to the children till they are 8 or 9. Because till the age of 8 or 9, we do not understand abstractness at all. A is an abstract term. It has nothing to do with the human being. There's nothing, because you can't see anything. And to remove that abstractness is why they added A for apple, so that at least आपके दिमाग में apple आए. 9.8 meters per second square. What? How many of you know of a guy who was sitting below an apple tree?
Newton.
On his head?
Newton.
Newton. 9.8 meters per second square is gravity. That's
Gravity.
what we found. You don't remember 9.8 meters per second square because you couldn't see it that day, but you could see a guy sitting below the apple tree and the apple falling in his head. So what you heard 20 years ago, Deep, you still remember it now because someone, your teacher made it concrete for you. And you know, where's the most powerful usage of this concept? In religion. आप बड़े मुस्लिम हो, क्रिश्चियन हो, हिंदू हो, सिख हो, ईसाई, जैन हो, all the religions talk about God as a supreme power, which has no shape, no size, no color, nothing. It's an abstract concept. लेकिन आप और हम जैसे जो नादान हैं, हम लोगों को abstract concept समझ नहीं आता है. तो हमारे बुजुर्गों ने Muhammad, the messenger of Allah, Jesus, the son of God, Ram and whatever different gods we have in Hinduism, Buddha and whatever, they created these concrete shapes so that normal people like you and me who don't understand abstractness can understand it. But अगर आप हर religion में deep जाओगे तो final call वही है कि there is a supreme power which is an abstract concept no one can understand. So can you bring in concreteness when you're talking to your investor? Because you know the technology. नेमा AI क्या करता है निधि को मालूम है लेकिन उस बेचारे को मालूम नहीं है वो तो AI सुन सुन के थक गया है बेचारा, right? So show him a concreteness to understand what you're doing. The sixth problem you're going to have, or the sixth thing that you're really going to have, यार wow तुमने तो यार दिल खुश कर दिया, चलो चक देते हैं. What do we do? You want people to act, right? You want them to call you. You want them to take your phone number. You want them to give your visiting card. Whether you win in the SmashUp or no, that and all is secondary. But really, आपको क्या चाहिए कि वहां जो बैठे हैं वो आपको विजिटिंग कार्ड दें और बोले भाई तुम अगले हफ्ते आ जाओ मेरे पास आधा घंटे का मीटिंग में देता हूं तुमको. How do you make people do that? By making them empathize with what you're doing. They need to feel a part of your journey. And the best way to make people empathize is by giving them data, not giving them data, but giving them stories. When you share stories, then people are able to relate to it. what is storytelling? Storytelling is not a big formula or whatever. Storytelling is simply putting a human in the context. Whether you are building an AI or no, put the human in the context and tell them what is the great thing your product or business is going to do for that human being. That's all. The moment you start getting a human context, all the other things will come in. Concreteness अपने आप आ जाएगा, simplicity अपने आप आ जाएगा, emotions अपने आप आ जाएंगे. Then people are able to relate to it. So tell a nice story, build a nice narrative so that they're able to empathize with the overall thing. And when I say story, it does not mean कहानी सुनान बताना. कहानी में जो खास विषय होते हैं उनको अपने नैरेटिव में यूज करो. और कहानी में सबसे खास चीज ये होता है कि मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम देयर इज अ क्लियर स्ट्रक्चर. हीरो, विलन, struggle of hero and villain, and finally they lived happily ever after. Everything was normal, suddenly everything got disturbed, there was a struggle, they overcame the struggle, everything became greater. That's all. If you see, that's the common structure of all stories. So can you find a narrative from your experiences? Varun Agarwal, when you talk about garage, can you talk about one customer who went through the problem and how you solved that problem? And when you make it even more personal, कि ये मैंने ये भुगता है और इसके कारण मैंने सोचा कि यार ये कंपनी खोलना है, then the credibility becomes higher, right? Because otherwise it's just a business for you. I am not very comfortable with that in the long run, right? Let me give you one more context so you understand this. रानी मर गई, राजा मर गया, ठीक है? The queen died, the king died. Any emotions? Maybe, maybe not. Let me rephrase now. The queen died and the king died of a broken heart. Raja Devdas banke mar gaya. Now tell me, are there different emotions? You're imagining one guy in दाढ़ी and बिल्कुल टल्ली होके सड़कों में भटक रहा है और फिर लास्ट में वो ऐसे देवदास बन के मर रहा है, right?
हमें तो अपनी स्टोरीज याद आ रही है प्रदीप.
जी साहिल,
We can remember our stories now.
you can remember
our broken hearts.
Absolutely, absolutely, right? It was the same thing, right? रानी मर गई, राजा मर गया. That's the fact. But what is the story? कि राजा मतलब दिल के टुकड़े टुकड़े होके मर गया, right? Facts tell, stories sell. So don't give people facts. Give them stories, give them narratives, give them anecdotes of what's happened in real life. Because you're solving problems not for machines, you're solving problems for real people. So put people in the middle and center. They both mean the same thing, right? Yeah, middle of the whole narrative, right? Put people in this middle of the narrative. So I used to study in Sri Ganganagar in a school called the Kendriya Vidyalaya Sri Ganganagar, a long time ago, many decades ago, in fact. And I remember one word, Safalta ki kunji. So there used to be this book that exam के एक दिन पहले आप वो बुक पढ़ लो तो आप पास हो जाओगे, राइट? पूरा साल भर तुम मत पढ़ो, खाली वो एक दिन रात को बैठ के रट्टा मार लो उस बुक को, you will pass, right? I'm glad I remembered that word today. In Pune, I remember they used to call it the key. When I used to study engineering in Pune, I used to call it the key. But today, I called up a friend in Rajasthan and asked him, and he said, "Sir, usko kunji bolte hain." Right? Of course, in Tamil, the word has an entirely different meaning. Don't ever use it with a Tamilian. ठीक है? मैं बाद में लड़कियां हैं यहाँ तो मैं पता नहीं पाऊंगा. बाद में मैं बताता हूँ आपको. गाइड मेहमान तो स्टूडेंट पहलवान, बिल्कुल सही. Yes, absolutely, Rajesh. Safalta ki kunji. So now I am going to give all of you one Safalta ki kunji. I am going to give you a formula by which you will be able to apply all these 6 things that we spoke about earlier. Okay. Number 1, what do you want? You want people to pay attention. How do you get people to pay attention? You do the unexpected. Next, what do you want people to do? You want them to understand. You want them to remember what you're saying. How do you make them understand and remember? You make it concrete. Give them something to imagine with. Give them something by which they can create a picture in their mind. Number 3, you want everyone to relate because 28 investors हैं, 28 लोग हैं, हर एक आदमी अलग अलग है, हर एक औरत अलग अलग है, उनके नजरिए अलग अलग हैं. So how do you make everyone relate? By making it simple. फिर क्या करना है? You want them to care about it. You want them to find meaning in it. कि इसमें मेरा क्या है? Right? At the end of the day, every human being is driven by one question कि इसमें मेरा क्या है? How do you bring in people's meaning? How do you get meaning for people? By bringing in some emotion into the conversation. Then what do you want? You want people to agree. You want them to believe in what you're saying, right? How do you make them believe? You make them believe by making it credible, by talking about use cases, by talking about actual customers that you have done, by talking about research reports which have proven what you're trying to do is correct. And then what do you want them to do? You want them to give their visiting card to you or take your visiting card from you. Marks dena wo alag alag baat hai. But what we really want is for them to call you for the next meeting. How do you make them or act? To act or do? You build everything in the form of a story. Now let's find what is a Safalta ka kunji. I put all of these things together. You can see it on my screen. Nitishi, can you remove me from the spotlight so my screen is fully highlighted? Yeah. So I put all these things together. I remove everything that's in black. So this is left. I remove everything except for the first letter. This is what is left. Yes, Varun, can you see a pattern emerging? You're on mute, Varun.
Yeah, yes, sir.
What is the
Success.
pattern? Absolutely. SUCCES. तो जब आप 27 तारीख को पिच करने जाओगे, आपके पिच को एक पन्ने में लिख लीजिएगा, स्क्रिप्ट को लिख लीजिएगा और फिर उसको मार्क दीजिएगा. Is it simple? Will my daughter who's 5 years old or 5th standard, will she understand what I'm telling? Is there something unexpected? कि सुदीप ने जो बोला, सारांश ने बोला, गौतम ने बोला, श्रेयांश ने बोला, शिखर ने बोला, वंश ने बोला, निधि ने बोला, राजेश ने बोला, साक्षी ने बोला, वरुण ने बोला, लेकिन मैं रक्षित जैन अलग हूं, मुझे कुछ अलग करना है. Is there something unexpected? Is there something concrete so that they are able to visualize? जब आप बात कर रहे हो तो उसके दिमाग में पिक्चर चलनी चाहिए, that they are able to create images in their mind. Is there something credible? कि भाई तो बोल तो अच्छा रहा है यार, लेकिन मैं कैसे बिलीव करूं? सर आप मेरे को मत बिलीव करो सर, इंडियन हार्ट एसोसिएशन ने बोला है, ये देखो रिपोर्ट. Is there a emotion so that they are able to connect to that emotion? And then finally, why will I act upon what Manjari is saying? I will act upon what Manjari is saying because she's given the whole thing packaged to me in the form of a story. So make a grid like this and अपने आप को scores दीजिएगा, आज ही script लिखिएगा, and then go and run the script with other people, talk to them, and see if you can score yourself on SUCCES. This is the formula for becoming better at story, becoming better at messages that stick. This formula was derived by two gentlemen called Chip Heath and Dan Heath, who wrote a wonderful book called Made to Stick. Why is it that we all remember Newton and the apple, but we don't remember what we ate for breakfast day before yesterday? Because Newton and the apple had something simple, had something unexpected. You didn't expect the apple to fall on him. It is credible because your physics teacher told you. There is concrete because you could visualize a guy sitting. You don't know how Newton looks like. There was an emotion क्योंकि तुमको लगा कि यार इसका सर क्यों दर्द नहीं हुआ. And then of course the whole thing was packaged in the form of a story. That's all. So whenever you make an investment deck, whenever you're making a document, whenever you're making a pitch, use this formula and you will be successful. With that, let's get to the second part of this part, which is basically the pitch deck that you're going to build in, right? So content matters. Again, Nitishi, you'll have to put the whole screen on spotlight. Right. So normally a pitch deck should have all these elements, right? Number one, you need to have a one-line introduction that kind of gives a broad image of what your business is about. Then you talk about the problem. Then you talk about how you're solving that problem, why you are different, why no one else has solved that problem, or how are you solving it differently. Then you talk about what is the market size, because that's what really makes the investor excited. यार जो दिवेश सॉल्व कर रहा है उसके लिए सिर्फ 100 कस्टमर है तो मेरा क्या जाता है, लेकिन जब दिवेश बोलता है कि सर इसके ऑलमोस्ट 2 करोड़ कस्टमर है potential, then as an investor my batti starts jalofying, right? Because it means more money, more returns, right? Then you talk about the product, right? How does the business work? How does the product work? Then you talk about the business model. What is the business model? कि आप पैसे कैसे बनाते हो, कि आपका कस्टमर आपको पैसे कैसे देगा, आप किस तरीके से आप पैसे बनाओगे. Then you talk about some numbers, right? Broad numbers so that they're able to get a perspective of how the business is going to be, how it is going to grow. Then you talk about your traction, which is nothing but credibility. Ki I already have 5,000 people who are using CRO, CLE, UIX. So then I believe Rajesh, what Rajesh is saying. Then you talk about the team. In the team, what do you talk about? You don't talk about my name is Rajesh, iska naam Nidhi hai, iska naam जितेंद्र है, नो, क्योंकि ना राजेश का सरनेम मस्क नहीं है, जितेंद्र का सरनेम जकरबर्ग नहीं है, और हर्ष का सरनेम टाटा नहीं है, तो आपका नाम और आपका फोटो का कोई कुछ नहीं उखाड़ सकता है. What they really want to know is what are the experiences and skill sets that you have that give me the confidence that you will be the right team to run the business. So give them context. Sir, Rajesh, I worked for Coca-Cola for 10 years, so I understand what channel marketing is. That's all. The moment you say you work for Coca-Cola, automatically मेरे दिमाग में आ जाता है कि चलो भाई ये बंदे को logistics समझ में आता होगा, right? You don't have to talk about your degrees, your graduation, your IITs and IIMs don't matter, because at the end of the day, what really matters is the execution. So I need to get confidence that you are good on execution. Then you talk about your go-to-market strategy, which is how are you going to reach people. Then you talk about your competition. What are the alternatives that your customers have? And then finally, you put your haath aage and say, Allah ke naam pe de de baba. What is your ask, right? What is the fundraise that you're trying to do? Or what is the requirement that you have from the investors? And it may, because I see many of you are in the early stage, maybe money is not what you really want. Maybe you want someone who can open up a network for you. कि सर मैंने 2 दुकान डाल दिया, लेकिन अगर और 100 दुकान डालना है तो एक रेडीमेड नेटवर्क मिलेगा तो मैं जल्दी आगे बढ़ सकता हूँ. सो मेरे को नेटवर्क एक्सेस दो, बस मेरे को आप पैसा मत दो, राइट? नाउ these are all ideal in a 10-minute pitch, but you now only have 3.5 minutes. So what do you do? So number one, if why is this not moving? One second. Yeah, good. So two things can clearly be taken off. Your go-to market and your product, you don't have to talk about it in that 5 minutes, right? है अपने पास 5 ही मिनट है. उस 5 मिनट में अपने को क्या करना है? उसको समझाना है कि भाई दुनिया में किसी को कुछ तो तकलीफ है. उस तकलीफ को सॉल्व करने के लिए मैंने ये ढूंढ के निकाला है. और ये सिर्फ एक बंदा नहीं है, ये लाखों करोड़ों में है, which is your market size. और ये लाखों करोड़ों के रख के हम लोग इतना पैसा कमा सकते हैं. बस हो गया काम खत्म. That's all. उसके बाद अगर उसको पूछना है कि भाई कंपटीशन क्या है, कौन है, टीम क्या है, थोड़ा थोड़ा आप ऐड कर सकते हो. बट प्रिडोमिनेंटली, primarily, all that you need to do is show the opportunity, show how the opportunity is converting to money, because every investor is sitting with only 2 questions. मेरे को कितना वापस मिलेगा और कब मिलेगा. बस ये 2 ही है इन्वेस्टर के सवाल में, और कुछ नहीं है. They don't want anything. Ideas don't matter to them. What really matters is how will this idea become true. So when Varsha is speaking to them, she doesn't have to convince them in those 5 minutes that, you know, about the whole business. All that Varsha needs to do is to give them a side saying that, boss, ये देखो, ये सोने का एक कुआं है, और वो सोने का कुआं खाली करना है, तो आप मेरे को बताओ, मेरे को मीटिंग बुलाओ, मैं आपको बताऊंगी कैसे इसको हम लोग निकाल सकते हैं. That's all you need to do. So the point again, I said in the early, you in a normal pitch, 10 minutes pitch, you may have to cover all these things, but in the 3-4 minutes, don't cover everything. And wherever possible, use metaphors. Wherever possible, use examples. Like I said for Rajesh now, right? Rather than saying that we are a great team, you say that we worked in Coca-Cola, period. हो गया काम खत्म. Automatically they have understood कि बस 10 साल कोक में काम किया, मतलब इसको नेटवर्किंग, इसको चैनल सेल्स आता होगा, right? Rather than saying that I am an aggregator which is aggregating different houses and restaurants in Jaipur, say we are like the Ola of restaurants in Jaipur. Ola सबको समझ में आता है. They understood you are an aggregator. You don't have to tell. The lesser the number of words you are going to use, the faster you are able to communicate much better to them. So try to reduce the information overload on them. I'm sure many of you would have heard of the word elevator pitch, which is like a 60-second pitch. So start off by building an elevator pitch. Don't start off by building a 5-minute pitch. So what you do in an elevator pitch, it's like a visiting card holder, right? कि आपको एंट्री लेना है लिफ्ट के अंदर, you use the card and you get the entry. Well, how should an elevator pitch be? It should be very, very, very short. It should have an effect that they feel, अरे और बताओ यार, अरे अच्छा, अरे बीच में क्यों रोक दिया, और बोलो यार, please, right? You want that effect to happen. And then finally, it has to have a clear call to action. What is the call to action? Not give me money. That cannot be done in 1 minute. The call to action is, sir, what I gave you is just a glimpse, but there's much more details that I can give you and much more possibilities to make money out of this business. Can you give me an appointment for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever? That's the call to action. So always have a Every presentation has to have a call to action. If you see that there's an investor sitting there who's an expert in biotechnology, you can go ahead and tell her, ma'am, I don't need money. Ma'am, I need you to validate this theory that I have done. Can you help me? That's why I've come to TiE Rajasthan's event. I don't want anything. I don't want money now, right? So there has to be a clear call to action. Like I said, it has to be really simple. It has to be crisp, and it should evocate a wow effect. Wow, यार क्या बताया इसने? या फिर वो दर्द भरी दास्तान वाला, oh my God वाला effect, right? So आप क्या सच बता रहे हो कि इंडिया में 70,080 औरतें मरती हैं? Really sad. You want them to feel about that. I've given an ideal pitch deck structure here, which is not pitch deck, an elevator structure. For example, I'm so and so. I have a background in so and so. Did you know that kind of a statement that many people in India, when they go for tours, they don't use tour operators because the credibility of tour operators is bad. So we have built a platform where we bring in very credible tour operators into our platform. And we feel this is going to be a 500 crore market in India because India is now spending on travel and tour. And for making this into a success, we need X crores of money. We would love to discuss this in detail with you. Tata, bye bye. Bas ho gaya. Right? So you have to make them feel कि boss यार ये तो FOMO है, fear of missing out. चलो जल्दी से हम जुगाड़ लगाते हैं इनके साथ, आर्यन सिंह के साथ और आकाश के साथ, ताकि I can make more money out of it. So start off by building the 1 minute thing. And then for this specific event that you guys are going to attend on 26th, make it a little more longer by making it a 3.5 minute pitch, right? What is happening with my slide? Oh. Riteshi, you'll have to come to my room and change slides. Yeah. Or get me a mouse so I can move my slides from here. I'm sorry, I'm using 4 different computers, so that's why I'm having to juggle stuff. So now let's get to the second part, show. And this again is something that you may need to give some more thought. क्योंकि आपके पास 5 मिनट है, आप वहां लैपटॉप लेके जाओगे, ओपन करोगे, ये देखो मेरा स्लाइड देख है, वो स्लाइड पे देखेगा, आप पे ध्यान कम देगा. तो it's a risky strategy for a 5 minute or a 3.5 minute having a presentation. और मैं एक ऐसा इंसान हूं जो मेरा 3 वक्त रोटी खाना सब प्रेजेंटेशन बनाने से मिलता है, और मैं फिर बोल रहा हूं आपको कि प्रेजेंटेशन की जरूरत नहीं है अगर आपकी कहानी, अगर आपकी स्टोरी स्ट्रांग है. But if you think there are certain things you can only do by 1 second, let me just check it. Where have you connected to that? No, it's not connected. Okay. Connect a wired mouse. Just connect a wired mouse. That's okay. Leave it. Connect a wired mouse to that. Thanks. Sorry, guys. So, but if you feel that there are certain concepts that you can only show visually to the investor or to the audience, then go ahead and make a slide deck. But when you make a slide deck, I want you to remove 4 points. I'll give you some gyan about design from a perspective of a short-term pitch. Number 1, the lesser the noise, the maximum the signal. What do I mean by this? Okay. For example, ये slide पे I want to tell my audience that जो green color bar है कोरिया, उसमें जापान से ज्यादा कम इंटरनेट कनेक्शन है और बाकी 4 कंट्री से ज्यादा इंटरनेट कनेक्शन है. ठीक है, जापान से कम, बाकी से ज्यादा. That's all. I think it's working with this. I think it's working. I think that laptop is getting a little bit hung when I don't use it much. Yeah, right. So मेरे को सिर्फ क्या बोलना है, जापान से कम है, कोरिया से ज्यादा है. Now, ये information मेरे को पास करने के लिए, do I need the map of Earth behind it? You can shake your heads like all Indians do, right? I don't need it, right? Do I need the lines that are there? Not needed. Do I need the numbers that are there? Not needed, because all I want to say is less than, more than, not how much less and how much more, right? Do I need the logo of your company on the lower corner? Not needed, right? So all this is noise. आपको क्या बोलना है कि बॉस मेरे को बताना है, आगे वाले को समझना है कि कोरिया में जापान से कम है और बाकी सबसे ज्यादा है. So everything that we spoke about now, the blue background, the lines, the numbers, the logo, the image on the background is noise. The moment you remove noise, this is how the slide becomes. Ghanti baji kya? The moment you see this, you now know what are we talking about. We're talking about the red one. How is the red one? It is lesser than the Japan one, and it is more than the Korea one or the other 3 countries. 1, 2, 3, 4 5 आपके ऑडियंस को आपके स्लाइड को 3 सेकंड से ज्यादा नहीं देखना है, उसके सिवा कुछ भी वहां नहीं होना चाहिए। बिकॉज यू आर द स्टोरी टेलर, यू आर द हीरो, वो तो साइड हीरो है, उसको आप ज्यादा भाव मत दो। सो डोंट पुट मेनी थिंग्स ऑन द स्लाइड, कीप इट एज मिनिमल एज पॉसिबल, bring in attention to the one single point that you want to do from it. Number 2, the power of pictures. Let us say I want to talk about teamwork. Typically, and correct me if I'm wrong, okay? अगर आपको टीम वर्क या पार्टनरशिप का एक इमेज डालना है, आप क्या डालोगे? 90% of us will always put a handshake. Two hands shaking, we will put it as partnership or teamwork, correct? एंड भगवान ना करे ग्लोबल पार्टनरशिप है तो आगे एक अर्थ का फोटो भी आ जाएगा। अब अगर 40 लोग सेम पिक्चर मेरे को दिखाओगे तो मैं कैसे समझूं कि आप अलग हो? सो यूज पिक्चर्स दैट कैन कम्युनिकेट अ स्टोरी बाय इटसेल्फ, समथिंग दैट पीपल सी इन रियल लाइफ, समथिंग दैट दे कैन इमोशनली कनेक्टेड। 8 guys trying to row the boat, is that partnership? Is that teamwork? Yes. Is it something people have seen in life? Yes. They are able to relate to it. And then 1 2 3 4 5 उसके बाद कहां देखेगा वो? उसको आपको ही देखना है क्योंकि आप कहानी सुना रहे हो। So use powerful images that communicate a story. If it is not needed, it doesn't communicate things, don't put the image. It is okay. By putting an image, you are giving them a distraction to what you're doing. Number 3, the power of empty space. The Indian tendency is that कहीं पे भी अपने को empty space दिख गया वहां कुछ तो भरना है, इसको खाली नहीं छोड़ना है। For example, in this slide on the right hand lower corner, your colleague will say, अरे यार यहाँ अपना कंपनी का लोगो डाल रहे हैं, चलो, राइट? वहां चल क्या रहा है कि आप हरा हाची बू के बारे में बात कर रहे हो, एंड वो आगे वाला बंदा जो दिखाना चाहता है कि वो इंग्लिश बहुत तेज पढ़ सकता है आपसे भी ज्यादा, वो ऑलरेडी छठे लाइन पे है। तो आप बात कर रहे हो एंड द ह्यूमन बीइंग कैन नॉट लिसन एंड रीड एट द सेम टाइम, इट डजंट हैपन। नाउ व्हाट हैव यू डन? आपने खुद के पैर पे कुल्हाड़ी मार लिया क्योंकि उसको आपने कुछ पढ़ने के लिए दे दिया। एंड द टिपिकल शो ऑफ टेंडेंसी ऑफ अ ह्यूमन बीइंग इज दैट आई शो ऑफ आई एम मोर इंटेलिजेंट देन द अदर पर्सन बाय रीडिंग rather than listening to them. We are bad listeners. We like to show off that we are good readers. So don't put too much text on the slide. Something like this is enough. Again, 1 2 3 4 5. And the fourth design concept you need to understand is the concept of contrast, right? Shreyans, can you read what's there on the screen, Shreyans?
Without contrast, you are dead.
Was it easy to read? Very difficult, right?
No.
When you put something like this on the slide, the audience is now trying to peer into your laptop, उसके अंदर घुस के पढ़ने की कोशिश कर रहा है, तो उसका ध्यान कहाँ गया? लैपटॉप पे गया। So what do? You give maximum contrast by using the power of colors and size and shapes. आपको ध्यान किस पे लेके जाना है, उस चीज को ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंस दो, बाकी सब चीजों को या तो निकाल दो या उनको डल करो। Oops. So with that, I've given you a little bit of gyan on the design part. Now we finally come to the do part, and I'm bang on time. We are at 9. I still have 8 minutes, right? Oops. Boom, 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 boom. Sorry. Yeah. Aryan Singh. मुझे यकीन नहीं है कि वहां आर्यन करके कोई है।
Am I audible?
Yes, Aryan, absolutely. Aryan, ये तस्वीर में क्या दिख रहा है आर्यन?
सर आपने स्क्रीन शेयर कर रखी है?
जी बिल्कुल।
बट मैंने मोबाइल से
इतनी देर से आपने स्लाइड ही नहीं देखे?
नहीं सर, वो एक्चुअली मैंने मोबाइल से ज्वाइन कर रखा है।
उसको ऐसे ऐसे आड़ा टेढ़ा करो, उसको ऐसे ऐसे हिलाओ तो आएगा।
आपने हाँ कार
It don't work. It don't work. So slides के phone के अंदर you have to remove from the spotlight. Then only the slides will be visible somehow.
No, but if you move it left or right, I think you can see both.
लाइक आई एबल टू सी द कार सर।
हाँ देखो, दिख रहा है यार, आनंद दिखता है यार, आनंद। मैं भी डर गया 2 मिनट के लिए। ठीक है, एनीवे, सो आर्यन, आपको कैसे पता चला ये कार है?
देख के सर।
देख के पता चला, राइट?
हाँ।
The point I'm trying to make is, when you are making a presentation for 5 minutes, don't talk the obvious. Don't put a slide like this. This is a car. उनको पता है ये कार है. Don't put a slide that says problem statement. Don't put a slide that says financial numbers. Try to make it a message by itself. every single element that you talk should not be an obvious thing. Good morning, my name is Ronak. I am coming here. Thank you to TiE Rajasthan for giving this opportunity. I am so honored and humbled to make this. Bhai, pata hai yaar mujhe. Come back to the point, right? Don't waste even 1 second because you only have 118 seconds to make an impact. So none of those thank you sir, thank you, it is such a pleasure to meet you sir. मैंने जिंदगी भर सोचा आपको मिलूंगा कभी, आज मिल गया, वो सब बात के लिए है. अभी अपने पास 180 सेकंड है और टाइमर चालू हो गया है. सिर्फ वो चीजें बोलो जिसको सुन के उसको लगे कि भाई इसके धंधे में मुझे पैसा लगाना है, इसको अगले मीटिंग में बुलाना है, बस. So don't state the obvious. Number 2, let us say, let me ask Harshika. Okay, Harshika, can you unmute?
Yeah, sir.
Yes, Harshika, आप कहाँ से हो?
So I'm from Jaipur.
जी जयपुर से. ठीक है, मैं पहली बार जयपुर आ रहा हूँ हर्षिका. ठीक है, मैं आपको आके बोलता हूँ कि हर्षिका मेरे पास 10 मिनट है, मेरे को जयपुर दिखाओ. ठीक है, आपके पास 2 तरीके हैं, या तो टैक्सी में लेके मेरे को ऐसे गली गली में आप घुमाओगे, या फिर हेलीकॉप्टर में लेके आप ऊपर से मेरे को शहर दिखाओगे. आप क्या करोगे हर्षिका? 10 ही मिनट है अपने पास.
So
हेलीकॉप्टर लेके जाओगे, राइट? क्योंकि वहां से नजरिया अच्छा दिखता है, सब कुछ
good
दिखता है,
view, right,
राइट?
sir.
It's the same metaphor I want you to understand. You only have 3 minutes. Don't take the investor on the streets. Don't take them into the details. Give them the big picture. Give them the wow effect. And then let them say कि boss मेरे को गली गली में जाना है, मैं अगली बार आऊंगा, 1 घंटे के लिए आऊंगा. So remember the metaphor of the street and the helicopter. You don't have to tell them everything. You just have to give them the big picture view. And because you have 5 minutes, don't think you have to talk for 5 minutes. Try to create your pitch and your narrative only for 75% of the time. 2 reasons. One, this will give them the opportunity to ask you questions so that you will be able to explain certain things that they may not have understood. Right? हम लोग सब एक सवाल पूछते हैं आगे वाले को, आपको समझ में आ गया? आगे वाला बोलता है हाँ. अब तुमको क्या मालूम उसको क्या समझ में आया, राइट? मैंने उसको बोला कि ये लाल है और उसको समझ में आया कि ये पीला है. मैं पूछ रहा हूं उसको, भाई तुमको समझ में आ गया? बोला हाँ समझ में आ गया, राइट? लेकिन उसको समझ में आया कि वो पीला है. आई हैव टू आस्क हिम कि बॉस मैंने बताया ये पीला है, आपको समझ में आया क्या ये पीला है, राइट? Similarly, you have to have the investors asking you questions if you want to really understand whether they have understood what you said. So give enough time for them to do a Q&A. So if your pitch is for 5 minutes, prepare only for 3 minutes. Second reason, एक जनाब है मर्फी करके, whatever can go wrong will go wrong. कि आप जब वहां बैठोगे, सडनली इन्वेस्टर की बीबी 10 बार फोन करेगी, वो डिस्ट्रैक्टेड रहेगा, फिर वो बाजू वाले का चाय का कप नीचे गिर जाएगा, right? All these things will happen, which means the time is going out from your time. So if you're going to prepare for 5 minutes and of that 1.5 मिनट चला गया उसके इन्वेस्टर के बीबी के कॉल में और आधा मिनट चला गया चाय गिरने में, आपके पास एक्चुअली 3 ही मिनट है और आप जो कुछ बोलना चाहते थे सब नहीं बोल पाओगे. And then you become anxious, you try to do da 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 and you go for a toss. आराम से रिलैक्स करो, उनको एक छोटी सी कहानी बताओ, 3 मिनट बताओ, बस है. उसके बाद उसके मन में लालच उठनी चाहिए कि भाई और चाहिए मुझे और चाहिए, राइट? Like the movie trailer. That's how you need to prepare. With that, I come to the end of the session. All said and done, जब आप वहां जाओगे, भले ही वो आपका पहला पिच हो या 28वां पिच हो, जी जान लगा के पैशन दिखा के करो, क्योंकि you never know when that one single person who you really needed is there. It could be the 26th pitch. I know my customers, some of them have got their first formal fund after their 39th pitch. So it's possible. So just because you're tired, you cannot go there. Good morning, sir. My name is Gautam Bateja. मैं दुनिया बदलने वाला हूँ सर. सब कुछ नया होने वाला है. आप देखो यूनिकॉर्न बनने वाला है. आप कुछ बोल रहे हो और आपका आवाज कुछ बोल रहा है. So you have to do it with 100% passion. With that, I come to an end of the session. If you want these slides that I spoke to you about, just take a photograph of the QR code. We are at 9:06. I am bang on my time. I still have 2 minutes left. You can take a scan of this QR code. You'll have to fill a Google form and my team will, within the next 24 hours, mail you all these slides that you saw. I am more than happy sharing my slides because without me, those slides mean nothing. Without you, your slide should mean nothing to anyone. And that's how you need to build your slides. It's been a pleasure talking to all of you. My name is Pradeep Yuvaraj. Thank you so much.
Thank
I'm
you
open
very
for
much.
questions.
Pradeep. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much,
Yuvaraj.
Pradeep,
I
for this
didn't get your name.
excellent.
So, thank you so much.
Thank you, Pradeep.
Pradeep, this was really
राजेश आपके
excellent.
पीछे तितलियां उड़ रही हैं, वो कैसे है यार? ये सब इफेक्ट कहाँ से आता है? पहली बार देख रहा हूँ मैं, राजेश के पीछे तितलियां उड़ रही हैं.
I was saying for the last slide, so दे दिया.
ओके.
प्रदीप, एक क्वेश्चन है मुझे.
जी पूछिए राफेल.
जो आपने स्टोरीज के बारे में बोला, इट्स वेरी गुड, राइट? वी हैव टू टेल द स्टोरी, राइट? इफेक्टिवली. उसमें झूठ और सच की कितनी बात है? मतलब कैन वी मेक अप अ स्टोरी? Let's say you mentioned Varun Agarwal to, let's say, for telling a story why the business is working, right? So can I make up that story? How ethical it is?
Yeah, that's why I said, people understand storytelling as telling stories, which it is not. Okay, storytelling is basically the art of using the various elements by which humans understand concreteness, emotion, and all that stuff, right? Sometimes, Sahil, you can make up a story, right? As long as it validates the concept that you're saying. Rather, that is the story, right? आप कहानी क्यों बता रहे हो? फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैं आपको एक छोटा सा एग्जाम्पल देता हूं ताकि आप ये समझो. एम्पथी, राइट? ये वर्ड है. एम्पथी का मतलब क्या होता है कि दूसरे की नजरिए से आप जिंदगी को देखना है. ठीक है? सो आई वांटेड टू टीच दिस टू अ ग्रुप ऑफ पीपल. नाउ आई वाज नॉट एबल टू गेट एन एग्जांपल, सो आई क्रिएटेड अ कैरेक्टर कॉल्ड अनिल. अनिल मेरे साथ क्लासमेट था श्री गंगानगर में. वो हर दिन बिना नहाए आता था. हम लोग उसको मतलब गंदगी बुलाते थे क्योंकि वो बिल्कुल स्मेल मारता था बहुत. एक दिन हम लोग जब उसके घर गए तो देखा कि वहां पर सब मटके 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 लगे हैं और सब मटकों में पानी भर के रखा हुआ है. और हम लोग फौजी हैं, हमारे घर पे तो पानी नलके से आता था, अगर पानी खत्म हो गया तो टंकर आता था. सो हम लोगों ने कभी देखा नहीं कि यू हैव टू हैव पॉट्स. देन वी आस्क्ड अनिल्स मदर कि आंटी आप इतने सब मटके में पानी क्यों भर के रखा है? तो उन्होंने बताया कि उनके घर से 10 किलोमीटर दूर पे कुआं है. हर दिन अनिल सुबह वहां जाता है, पानी भर के लाता है और फिर स्कूल आता है. अब आप बताओ, उसके बाद हमने अनिल को गंदगी बुलाया होगा क्या? राइट? अ पर्सन हु डजंट हैव वाटर टू ड्रिंक doesn't need to take a bath, and that is what is empathy. So I created the story, right? To explain the concept, you can create a narrative. To explain the concept, you can create a character. But to prove your business, don't give stories. Don't give bullshit. Bullshit is different. Stories are different. It has to be credible. It has to be validated, right? For example, what do you do, Sahil? What's your business?
So we are a B2B spare part aggregator service. We are making the workshops life easier in procurement of the spare parts.
Right. So you talk about meet Ramesh. Ramesh is a mechanic in Bulandshahr. Ramesh can repair 100 bikes in a month, but he's able to repair only 10 bikes. Why? Because he doesn't get spare parts. But Sahil and my team, now we have made life easier for Ramesh. In fact, he now runs 10 different agencies in 10 different cities. And this is how we are done. So now there's a visual in my mind of some guy in Bulandshahr struggling. He's not able to source ideas. So that's kind of stories that you can. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure. Any other questions? Super. So और कोई सवाल नहीं है तो मतलब या तो मैं बहुत ब्रिलियंट था या फिर मैंने जो कुछ भी बताया कुछ नहीं समझ में आया. दोनों में से कोई एक चीज हो सकता है. I will take the first one and Sonam, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for taking out time from your busy schedule. I hope everyone got the insight for the elevator pitch and they are all ready for the 27th. So we will be sharing all the details with you soon. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much. God bless you. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you.
Thank you once again, Pradeep.